Okay, here we go. Yom Yom. 27 Teves. The Alter Rebbe said, Jewish physical matter is spiritual. God gives us material bounty for us to transform into something spiritual. When occasionally it is not so at the moment, meaning Hashem hasn't provided the material wealth, then we must give God whatever we can. Even a minchas only. You know, the mincha offering had various shir. There's a minchas asher and a minchas oni. The offering depending on your financial stature. So whatever we can give, even what's called a minchas only, even a pauper's offering. And then if we give generously from what we have, then he will give generously to us. So that everything physical is ultimately spiritual and to be used in the service of Hashem. All right. Tanya. This version, page 44. Page 44. Yeah. Chapter 17. This version, page 237. Okay, Ubezeh Yuvan. This will be understood with what? We were speaking about the Tavuna, Machshava Toiva, the love and fear, the midos of love and fear as they are embedded in the brain, in the Machshava, and as they are embedded also in the Tailumis Liboy, the hidden reaches of the heart. This is before active contemplation. This is the natural state of a Jew. So B'zeh Yuvan, with this understanding of the natural state of a Jew, that there is this machshava teva, there is this tavuna quality of love of God in the brain and in the hidden reaches of the heart. With this we can understand the pasuk, Ki korev alecha hadavar ma'ed b'ficha lavav chalasoisei, which may ring in your ears because this was the frontispiece of the whole Likutei Torah. He says that in there, we learned this, that this is a collection from various places, founded on the pasuk in Devorim. The whole Tanya is founded on this pasuk. Ki korev alecha hadavar ma'ed, that the thing is very, very close to you. Beficha, in your mouth and in your heart, la'soisei, to do it. So having understood the Tailumis Liboy, the hidden reaches of the heart, we have that. And we have the Mashava Toiva, we have the Tenuva that we spoke about yesterday. We can understand that pasuk, that is very close to us, la'soisei, to do. At first, this seems to be opposite the experience of the natural desires of the heart. Yeah, and we have to say, it can't be that. It can't conflict with that can't be a conflict because, in this little bracket, the Torah is eternal, and it's telling us something true. So you know what? It is true that we have natural desires in the heart, and it's not close to us. It's not near to us. It's not easy to us to transform them, these natural desires of the heart, to transform them from the taivas of Olam Hazeh, from the pleasures of this world, Lahavas Hashem, to love Hashem, the emes and truth. Remember, that's the service of a tzaddik, the transformation, right? And that is difficult. And that may not even be accomplished with a lot of avodah unless there's a gift from Hashem, as we've learned as we've learned earlier. Okay, as it says in the Gemara, it acknowledges this, that it's difficult. When Moshe complained that all Hashem is asking us is to fear him, to be in awe of him, that's all he's asking, the Gemara says, is fear or awe of God such a small thing? And how much more so Ava, love of God, is that really a small thing to be able to attain? The Gam Omer Razal, and also our sages have said, the tzaddikim dafka libam b'reshusam, that tzaddikim, specifically tzaddikim, their heart is in their control. So back to the pasuk. The pasuk in Devarim on which all of Torah of the Tanya is founded is Ki korev alecha hadavar ma'ed b'fikol levav la'soisai, that it's close to you, very much in your mouth and in your heart to do what Hashem wants. Wait a minute. I have natural desires, and the Torah itself tells us that it's not so easy to transform them. Okay, so what's the issue? How do we resolve this? Ela de la soise. We have to emphasize the last word in that pasuk. To do. To transform is difficult. To do is korev elecha, is close to, easy to, near to a person to do, because of the tavuna in one's mind that we spoke about yesterday, and the talumas liboy, and the love of God which is hidden in the heart. So to do it is close to anybody. The love that comes, that enables one to do the mitzvahs, bilva, just to do them. This comes from what's called the la'usa deliba, the will of the heart. Slave, from the hidden reaches of the heart. Again, this is
I beg your pardon, Avi. Can you repeat the page, please? I'm sorry.
Page 44. We started a new chapter. Yud Zayin.
In Lessons in Tanya.
Oh, in Lessons in Tanya.
I'm sorry.
It's 237.
Thank you.
It's 237. Now we're way off page 237 at the moment. You have to flip a page here.
239. 239.
Okay, I don't. Excuse me. Okay, so just to sum, apparently, just so everyone's on the same page, we had spoken about two hidden reaches in the soul of a person, the godly soul. The hidden reaches of the mind, that is where the emotion of love is in the brain still, machshava tova, which we call tevuna, and the hidden reaches of the heart, which we call talumis liba, the hidden reaches of the literally the hidden depths of the heart. And it's because those things are there and part of our nature, the godly nature, which is the primary nature, versus the nature that we call nature, which is the animal soul. Because those things are there, those things can be tapped to bring us, at least, if not to transform the negative which is in us, but at least to do the positive. And that's where we are. To do it. So there is in every one of us a spark that will bring us to a love, and a love which, and this is in the classical Tanya, second to the last line on the bottom, page 84, which brings us to be able to do the mitzvahs bilvad, just to do them. Shehira usa deliba, which is the will of the heart, shebetalumis le, which is in the hidden reaches of the heart, gamki enib his galus liba kurishke esh, even if it's not yet. I'm putting in the word yet. It's not in the Tanya. Yeah, even though it's not yet at the level of a flame of fire. It's just that smoldering spark, that flickering spark, not yet inflamed. So this, to be able to do what Hashem wants us to do, not to transform evil, but to just put ourselves in a position of, I'm going to do this. This is close to everybody to do and easy for every person to do. That is for any person, that is for any person who has a brain in his head. Because one's thoughts, one's brain, what one thinks about is in your control. You can switch your thoughts. All you have to do is summon up the will to switch your thoughts. And we've used the example of, a person who has to go on a diet. You can choose that, even though you still may have the craving, right? You still have that natural animal soul craving. You can choose to change the behavior. Because the brain is in your reshus, and a person can think in his brain whatever the person wants to think about. And if a person will contemplate, think about, use your power of bina, of understanding, to think about the greatness of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, there will be born, at least in your head, Hashem, a love, a desire for Hashem, to cling to Him, through fulfilling His mitzvahs and His Torah. And this is you can read this two ways. I don't know how they translate it. This is the entirety of a human being, of a Jew, or this is something that's available to every Jew. Because today is the day to do. To do is in your control. To transform the way you feel is a different story. But to do is in your control. And that's a pasuk. It's the day to do it. What's a day? Day, the Alter Rebbe uses as a metaphor for the world of doing, the daylight, the world that we're in. I open up my eyes and here's the world. Well, the machar, which is and it says, this is the pasuk. This is the day, we're in this world to do. Tomorrow, when the soul leaves the body, or in the future state of Techiyas Amesim, etc., that's when the reward will be delivered. But today is the day to work, to do. And we have the ability to choose that doing. That's something that the mind can control, and it can be, as it's sparked by the hidden dimensions of the heart. And Mr. Kosev Malkamach is written in another place. Right? Moyach shalat al alev. So in this chapter, right now, we have two of the basic tenets of the Tanya. To do it's incumbent, or it's not incumbent. It's close to each and every one of us to be able to do it, because the brain can rule over the heart, at least to do. The brain can, but naturally, and the way we're born, that brain can rule over the left side of the heart, which is the domicile of the nefesh habahamis. Ve'al piv, and the brain can rule over your mouth, what you say. Ve'al kol evorim, and the brain can rule over all the limbs in your body. Shehem kli ma'aseh, which all the limbs of the body are vessels for doing. In lay mishahu rasha be'emes, if you're not really that fifth category, a true Russia, who's not someone who's debilitated, could be debilitated, but in any case is not using his mind at all to master his heart. He just gave himself or herself over. Like, I'm not going to use it, or it could be loyal that I can't use it. If you're not a Rasha Be'emes, Kamayim Rizal, as the sages say, Shaharashoyim Heim B'Rashus Libon. The evil people who are unable to bring themselves to even act according to the way Hashem wants, they're under the dominion of their heart. The heart meaning the Teves of the natural soul, the animal soul. And their heart is not under their control at all. And this being in this condition, he says, is a great punishment as a result of very big avoinas, sins. And the Torah doesn't speak about dead people. In other words, these are lost people, right? Lost people who are unable to bring themselves back. The Torah doesn't speak about them in general. They're not really dead. They're dead to. They're dead to the sensitivity of the godly soul. They're not dead, in fact. The Torah doesn't speak about dead people. It's talking about people who in their lives are called dead. Because in truth, it's impossible for this type of a person, this extreme type of a person on the negative side, to begin to serve Hashem without first doing some kind of shuva on the past. The Shabbat HaKlippas, in order to break the klippas, because the klippas for this type of person are a separating wall, a separating divider. Umachitza shel barza, they're like an iron curtain. Hamafsekes beineim l'havim shamayim, which divides between them and their Father in heaven. Person has to really work. This type of person to really work, and has to al yedei shviras libe, and break one's heart, umuriras nafshe, and come to bitterness of the soul, al chatov, on his sins. This is like, the addict who has to get to a point of really saying, I don't want this anymore. The alcoholic, etc., etc. A person has to reach that state in order to. This is the person for whom the Tailumas Liboy, the godly hidden reaches of the heart and the tabun in the brain are not in that person's control at the moment. In order to get them in the control, the person has to break. The person has to really, really want to come back and really push for this and have bitterness over his sins. As is written in the Zohar on the pasuk says, "Zivche elakim ruach nishbora lev nishba." The offerings to Hashem, the slaughter. Now, zevach means to slaughter, the shech and slaughter. The slaughterings, because this person has to slaughter that and really work hard to turn himself around. So the slaughterings to Elokim, to God, are ruach nishbora, a broken spirit, lev nishbar, and a broken heart. Shal yidei lev nishbar to nishbora ruach atuma, the sitaraka, through a broken heart, where the person breaks the power of the Sitra Achra. As it says in the Zohar, in Parshas Pinchas, in Dalet, and in Raya Mahemna, which is also part of the Zohar, Parshas Vayikra, Dalet Chesed gives you places here, and also the Pirush of the Ramaz, Rav Moshe Zakuto, who's one of the primary explicators of the Zohar. All of this is explained. This that we've been talking about is Bechinas Shuva Tator, as we'll learn much more about in Ageras Tshuva, the difference between the lower Tshuva and the upper Tshuva. But this is Shuva Tator, the lower Tshuva, which is sometimes also referred to as a Tshuva that comes from Yiras Chet, from the sickness and the fear, the sickness of being, I'm finally fed up with the sickness of being far away from Hashem. This is called Shuva Tator. Lahalis Hashem Heitator, to elevate the Heitator. There are two Heys in the Shem Havaya, Yud K, Vav K, and as explained, we'll get to this in Geras Shuva. The Heitator refers to Shuva Tator, this lowers, and the Hey Allah, the first one, refers to a higher level of Shuva. But in any case, this person has to first take oneself off the dung heap, so to speak. The Hakimam in the Philosopher Shenafla El Chetzonim, to take himself off of that level where the person has fallen into the external powers of the Sitra Achra. Shehu Soid Galas Shechina, which this falling into the trap, the dungeon of the external powers is called the exile of the Shechina. The Maimon Azal, as the sages have said, excuse me, it's in the Gemara Megillah. It says in that Gemara, when we Jewish people were exiled into Edom, and we've talked about before how Edom is the progenitor of the whole Roman Empire, when we've fallen into that state of consciousness, the Edom state of consciousness, the Rome state of consciousness, the Shekhinah comes with us because God is everywhere. God goes with us, right? It says in God said to Moshe when he was going down to Egypt, don't worry, I'm going to go down with you. So the Shekhinah, we schlep the Shekhinah, schlep it into Galus and redeem it from Galus. We have that capability. So, but here we're speaking about schlepping it into Galus. Edom. Yeah, when a person does an Edomite deed, Edom, as I said, is the progenitor of the Roman Empire. When a person does that, he draws down from there his spark of godliness. This expression, nitzut, spark, is understood. It's an interesting mashal explained at length, particularly in Hemshech Hayim Beis, what's a spark? If you ever sat in front of a fire, I'm sure many of us have, you've seen how the wood can spark off sparks which float away. The spark is a little piece of fire. It still has the fire in it, but it's separated. So that's the mushal of the spark. The spark of the godly soul. It has elokus in it. It has fire in it. It has to. Otherwise, it couldn't exist. The life of the clip is the life of the sitaraka. But it's sparked away. It's metaphorically divided from and distant from, and not connected. And that's the metaphor of schlepping the spark of godliness. Hamachaya es nefesh ruach neshama, which enlivens all three dimensions of the soul that's invested in the body. Hamluboshin boy, which is enclosed, ben nefesh abahamis, in the animal soul. Meha klippa, from the klippa. Sheba liboy, which is in one's heart. Sheba holo hasmali, in the left side of the heart. Hameleches boy, which this is now the empower. The animal power is the power of animation, the power that hameleches boy, which lets us go somewhere, lets us move. And as long as the person is in this state, he's called a rasha. And if he or she wakes up and listens to or sees, whatever the metaphor you want to have, given it there, shema, if the person has an occasion to wake up and say, I'm going to change, I need to change, I will change, so that can overcome, that can be the movement back to godliness. But in the meantime, nefesh ruach neshama, the nefesh ruach neshama is kevushim begoila etzlei, is captured in gullus by this kind of a person. Now, when the person reaches that state of brokenheartedness for this and says, I'm fed up and I'm crying the cry of Shuva, when a person's heart is broken, the kir boy within him, and breaks the spirit of uncleanliness and the sitaraka, v'yespordu kol oven, the pasuk ends, and all the sparks of iniquity are scattered. Then that person can stand up minafilasa from his or her state of fallenness, v'gam notzva, and also he will stand up la'olam, forever. That when a person gets this gift of being aware, well, we're learning that we have it, right? Suppose we hadn't opened this book at all, and we just had said, what the heck am I going to do? I'm fallen into the dungeon. I'm just feeling lowly and disconnected. If there's a wake-up call, either from the outside or from the inside, if it comes from the inside, that wake-up call is coming from the spark of godliness, the nefesh elokis, the tavuna we spoke about yesterday, and the hidden reaches of the heart we're speaking about today. And when that person gets that spark and he listens, sees that flame, hears that voice, whatever metaphor you want to use, then the person begins to stand up and separate from the darkness and come back into the light. As is written in another place. That's today in Shabbos, Tanya. Comments, questions?
Rabbi Kamen, when David HaMelech says that the zevach to Hashem is ruach nishbar, lev nishbar.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I mean, Hashem wants us to be broken, sad, depressed. I don't think that's what nishbar is.
He doesn't want us to. That's the starting point.
Yeah, but I think it's like breaking a horse. You know how you use the term to break a horse.
Well, here, I know.
To train him a certain way.
I think that's a little bit different when you train it. This is being brokenhearted. There's no better vessel for holding God than a broken heart. That's the starting point, to actually be brokenhearted. That's what
Doesn't
it means
it mean
here.
to like break your heart, meaning to train your heart in a certain direction?
Not here, no. It means that you've got to come to the point of broken heart. This person that we're describing here, who's a captive in prison, that's the word we use, in a dungeon, in a prison, captive by the Yetzer Hara. That Russia Gomer, that's what we call him, that Russia Be'emes, that's what we call him, in order to start coming back, needs to get to a point of brokenheartedness and just fed up with it. Just, I'm fed up with this. That's what it means here.
This is called hit bottom.
Hit bottom. That's what it means. Exactly.
He's brokenhearted over his own rishus. He's brokenhearted over his own.
Yeah. The addict who says, I'm fed up with this. I've got to get out of this. I see my family's falling apart. I've got to get out of here. He's fed up. He's screaming. He's crying. That's the. But
what about a tzaddik who never hit rock bottom? How does he give zevach to Hashem?
We're not talking about a tzaddik. We're talking about a Russia here. We're talking, the context of Zivre Elakim Lev Nishbar is referring to not a tzaddik. We're talking about a Russia. That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
I hear what, I'm kind of with Elisheva on this, if what she's saying, if I understand what she's saying. It seems to me that this portion of today resonates with less negativity, more positive than what I'm hearing from you, Avi. Is that what you mean, Elisheva? Kind of?
I just mean that the Torah applies to everyone, just like in Paro strengthening his heart, that applies to us strengthening our own heart. So I see everything applying to everyone. So when it says in Tehillim, Ruach Nishbara is a zevach to Hashem, that applies to me, even though I never hit rock bottom and I'm not an alcoholic.
No, but it does apply to you, even though you're not an alcoholic, thank God, or hit rock bottom. Find the place in you which is broken and fix it. That's what it means. What Elisheva is saying is true. Is true, but that's not the context of today's Tanya. Today's Tanya is find the brokenness, look at the brokenness, and let that be the starting point for the healing.
Yeah, if I I offer the hip bottom analogy, it's more or less like just the point that you can't accept a certain thing anymore and you're going to change it. It doesn't have to be. It's just that you've had enough at this and you just want to change. It's different people hit that point on different areas and different times in their lives in different ways. It's just like when you have a strong enough resolution that it can't continue, whatever it is.
No, and you're absolutely right. And if you want to apply, you could apply that to a tzaddik. It wouldn't look like this that we've read on the page here. It would look like what the Rebbe was quoted as saying, I'm always happy, but I'm always frustrated. Frustration, the feeling that that's a place I want to move out of that frustration into a place of connection. That could be. But here we're speaking, that's a very subtle. We wouldn't call that brokenheartedness, but it's something that needs to, that the Rebbe or each one of us wants to improve upon. So here very clearly it's, this particular piece is talking about Russia Be'emes, and each one of us can find Devrishus within us. It may not be Be'emes, and as Rivka said, it doesn't have to be falling, that degree, that severity, but find that place where there is an open wound that needs to be healed. And I think each and every one of us can find that. It can be in a relationship with a person. It can be a situation. You can find, I think, to me, that's the bechein. I don't know about you guys, but I encounter every day situations which either they present themselves as broken situations that need to be healed. I can talk about 25 of them at my place of work, a few of them in my home, and they need to be healed. And the force that we have, the capability we have for healing them, is the tavuna and the talumas liboy of our godly soul. Anybody else? I heard that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's the part in here where it talks about tshuva. to really do avodat Hashem, that there has to be tshuva.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that, he can be alive and be considered dead. That's
that's an interesting
startling.
That's an interesting idea, right? The Torah doesn't speak about dead people. It speaks about people who are in their life are called dead. And I challenge myself and I can easily discover that place of deadness that needs to come alive and be full of hope and promise that I can bring it alive because of what we're saying here. All you have to do, machshava tova, change the way you think, change the way you feel, change the way you be. And unless you're a tzaddik gomer, or even if you're a tzaddik gomer, but certainly unless you're a tzaddik gomer, you're full of opportunities to do this avoidance.
Also, am I still? Yeah, it's also the point here. I think it's a really, really full reading. The idea about how is Yireh Shamayim a small thing, like it can affect your every moment of your life if you really include it.
All right, we all have the power to do. The thing is very close to us in our heart, in your mouth and in your heart, to do it. All right, we'll.
Huda says.
Oh, I just want.
Huda says that. Okay, I didn't see it. Go ahead.
Wow, where'd you get this? I wanted to add that I saw, I don't know, maybe it was in your class. I don't know where I saw it, but it says, Machshava tova HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfa l'maaseh, you know?
It was today.
It was today?
Yesterday.
No,
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Yesterday's Tanya.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it continues to apply today. I like that application for today.
I just wanted to say that it brings to mind, even though here it refers to the Golus of Edom, it brings to mind what we're learning now with Paro. I think Elisheva touched upon it, that his heart was hardened. And I know that Paro has the same letters as Oref, which is the back of the neck. Like he didn't have the ability to bring the powers of his mind down to his heart. He lost, I guess, because he was such a sinner, he lost that ability to influence his heart, and his heart just stayed hardened, I guess, until he did tshuva, right? He does do tshuva at some point when he lets the Yidden go, but it's just interesting to me. When we were learning this, I was thinking about Paro.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, the backside of the neck.
Right.
All right. Good Shabbos. We'll see you Sunday.
Good
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Thank you.
Thanks.